Tips to locate and serve evasive targets. In this video, I'm going to share some tips and strategies on how to locate and serve evasive targets. My name is Tim Santoni and I've been a private investigator for over 20 years. Me and my team have tackled over 1,000 difficult locate and serves for law firms over the years. We get a ton of cases that are referred to us for locate investigations, or skip traces as they're commonly called, because the process server couldn't get a defendant or a witness served. The crazy thing is that many times, the address where the process server is attempting service is a good address. In my experience, a traditional process server is effective about 75% of the time. But when they aren't, it can really cause issues with your case. Remember that a traditional process server is serving hundreds of documents at addresses in a given area. They hit the door and move on. They don't check with neighbors, they don't write down plates of vehicles, and they don't check the Amazon packages on the porch. The time and expense associated with rescheduling depositions is an issue when you can't get people served. Also, when you can't get a defendant served after filing a lawsuit, your client can get a little bit anxious. The problem with traditional process servers is that they offer a certain number of attempts for a set price that is fairly low, say $50 to $150. Be sure to stick around to the end of this video. I'll be sharing a bonus tip on serving evasive targets that have Ring cameras. When it comes to locating and serving targets, you need to begin with the end in mind. First, you need to know what you're serving. If you are serving a lawsuit or a small claims case, know that subservice is okay. So it's important to have an address where the defendant lives, works, or receives mail. If you're serving a document that requires personal appearance, like a deposition subpoena, trial subpoena, or notice of judgment debtor exam, you must personally serve the target. The other thing you must consider is the timeline. If you have a few days to locate and serve a target, the tactics are different than when you have a few weeks. Once you understand the type of legal documents you are serving and the timeline you have, you can create a solid plan. The most difficult targets to serve are those who need to be personally served, so let's start there. If you're locating and serving a target that requires personal service, here's the process I would recommend. Engage your in-house investigator or an outside PI firm that specializes in locates. They should do the following. Conduct searches of all available commercial databases. Look for reported address history, utilities, and the address on the target's driver's license when possible. Then check property ownership records at the most recent reported addresses. If your target owns a property at a recent address, you know that you have a pretty solid lead. Immediately send out your forwarding address letters to the postmaster for all probable addresses, because those often take time to get back. Then check the top 5 social media sites: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and Twitter, to see if your subject has profiles on any of them. If you can find a profile for your target and they have a post, you might be able to see where they live, work, or spots they frequent. Also, social media searches are a great way to obtain a photo of your subject so that when you take to the streets, you have an identity for your subject. Whether you have one or many potential addresses for your subject, the most important thing to do is develop a current contact phone number for your subject. You need this phone number to make your discreet calls via a trap line or blind line. Once you develop a good contact number for your subject, it's really important that you're equipped to make a discreet call under pretext to verify an address or to develop a new address. There are different techniques around this, and I'll get to that in another video, but the only real way to confirm the location of your subject is through direct contact with the subject, a family member, a neighbor, a relative, or somebody who actually knows where the subject is living. There's a couple of blind line trap line services that I highly recommend, and make sure you're equipped to send text messages via those blind line trap lines as well. If you are relocating and serving a target that doesn't require personal service, I would follow a similar process, but be sure to get your postmaster letters out on day 1, because you need those back as quickly as possible. Also, be sure to look for possible employment or business affiliations. If you can get a work address, that gives you a second location to attempt service. Once you do your investigation research, it's time to hit the streets. Here are some suggestions to get better results serving targets who might be hiding or evasive. First, be professional and courteous to start. Dress and speak in a professional manner. I have also found that approaching a target's residence empty-handed is a good technique. Tuck the documents into your back of your pants so that when you approach, you appear to be empty-handed instead of someone with a delivery. You need to be sure that the photo of your target developed during the locate, along with the cell phone number, is readily available on your phone. This is important because if the target answers the door and you clearly identify them based on the photo, but they say the target you are trying to serve doesn't live there, you can still drop service. I suggest asking the subject for ID, but they may not comply. Then you're going to place a call to the cell phone number you have available for your target and see if it rings in their pocket. If the subject is not home during service attempts, make note of the vehicles and plates parked in the driveway or on the street adjacent to the house. Look for Amazon packages or mail that is exposed to see if your target's name is on the packages. I never suggest going through someone's mailbox, but if the mail or packages are in plain view, you can't get in trouble for looking. After a couple of service attempts are made and you can't get your target, I suggest making contact with the neighbors to confirm that your target lives at the location, and ask neighbors about the typical schedule of the target. When do they come and go? Do they work, etc. I suggest this after a couple of attempts, because if you do it on the first attempt, the neighbor could tip off the target and make it more difficult to get them served. If you're attempting service on a target that you profiled and you know they work, service attempts at the residence should be done in the evening or early morning. Remember that in order to personally serve a target with documents that require personal appearance, the code section states you must confirm the subject is home and get within speaking distance, which is approximately 15 feet. So, If the subject's car is in the driveway and they won't come to the door, but they clearly are responsive to the name you're asking for, you can drop the papers on the doorstep. Okay, here's the bonus tip for serving targets with Ring cameras. If the target comes on the Ring camera and says they're not home or that you have the wrong address, you can say, oh, that's fine, I can just drop the papers on the doorstep. Then proceed to bend down and drop the papers. In some cases, the target will freak out and come out the door or even say, oh, you can't do that. Then you can just say, please prove to me that you are not my target and I'll take off. If you truly have the wrong address, the target will provide you with information on who they are by showing ID. If not, there's a really good chance you have the right address for your target. Before I close out, I want to share one last tip. Whether you're serving legal documents that require personal service or legal documents that can be subserved, you must document all attempts. This is crucial because if you end up subserving your target, you need to prove that you made diligent efforts to personally serve before subservice. Diligent efforts is defined by 3 attempts that are usually done 24 hours apart at varying hours of the day and night. In order for this type of service to stick, you need to leave the documents with someone over the age of 18, then you must mail a copy of the service documents and execute a declaration of diligence. If you're attempting to serve a target personally and you just can't get them served, always prepare a detailed report of all your efforts because this can go a long way in getting the court to allow service deadlines to be extended or even allow service via other methods like mail, social media, or even email. These are just a few tips on how to locate and serve evasive targets. Thanks so much for watching and consider giving this video a like.